The security footage shows him standing perfectly still in the dark. Marcus Hale's penthouse study, 42nd floor. 3:47 a.m. The motion sensors should have triggered the alarm 30 seconds ago, but the system never made a sound. The figure doesn't move like a thief. No frantic searching, no hurried movements. He stands at the center of the room, head tilted slightly as if listening to something only he can hear. Then he walks to the desk with the calm precision of someone who's been here before. He opens the bottom drawer, locked supposedly, and removes something. Not takes, removes. The difference matters. He places a manila envelope on the leather desk mat, perfectly centered. Uses his phone flashlight to photograph it. Then he leaves the way he came, through the terrace door that should have been impossible to open from the outside. By the time Marcus Hale returns from his Chicago trip at 6:15 a.m., the intruder is gone. The envelope sits waiting. No fingerprints. No DNA. No sign of forced entry. Inside the envelope, a single photograph and 5 words written in feminine handwriting. You know what you did? The photograph shows a woman Marcus hasn't seen in 7 years. A woman who drowned in Lake Michigan. A woman the world forgot. But someone didn't. My name is Harriet Sinclair. I'm not part of this story. I'm only the one telling it. What happened in Marcus Hale's penthouse that October night would seem like a simple stalking case. An eccentric billionaire targeted by someone with a grudge. The police would file their report. Security would be upgraded. Life would continue. That's what everyone believed. They were wrong. Marcus Hale didn't call 911. He called his head of security first, then his attorney, then, almost as an afterthought, the Chicago Police Department's Special Victims Unit. Detective Lauren Mora arrived at 8:30 a.m. with her partner, Detective Chin. They found Marcus in his study, composed, cooperative, clearly shaken but maintaining the controlled demeanor of a man who'd built a pharmaceutical empire from nothing. The alarm system was disabled remotely, Marcus explained, pulling up logs on his tablet. Whoever did this had sophisticated knowledge of Sentinel Security's protocols. This wasn't random. The photograph sat in an evidence bag on the desk. The woman in it was maybe 30, blonde, standing on a sailboat with the Chicago skyline behind her. She wore a white summer dress and was laughing at something off camera. Do you know her? Mora asked. Marcus's jaw tightened. Her name was Elena Voss. She worked for my company 7 years ago. Junior researcher in our clinical trials division. She died in a boating accident. Were you close? Voss. We were friends. Her death was difficult for everyone at the company. Chin examined the handwriting. And this message? I have no idea what it means. Elena's death was accidental. There's nothing I did, except try to help her family afterward. Marcus met Mora's eyes directly. I established a scholarship fund in her name. $100,000 annually for women in pharmaceutical research. Mora made notes. Everything Marcus said could be verified. Everything sounded reasonable. The security footage showed a male figure, approximately 5 feet 10 inches, wearing dark clothing and a baseball cap that obscured his face. He knew where the cameras were and moved with deliberate care to avoid clear angles. Professional. Planned. Do you have any idea who might want to frighten you? Mora asked. Marcus considered. I've made enemies. You don't succeed in pharmaceuticals without stepping on toes. We're in the middle of a patent dispute with Meridian Corporation. They've made threats before, though nothing like this. Chin looked up from his phone. Elena Voss. I'm seeing the accident report from 2018. Solo boating incident on Lake Michigan. She went out alone, didn't return. Body recovered 3 days later. Cause of death: drowning. Blood alcohol content 0.14. The investigation concluded she fell overboard while intoxicated. That's correct, Marcus said quietly. Elena struggled with alcohol. We tried to help her, offered treatment. She refused. The narrative fit perfectly. Troubled employee. Tragic accident. Generous employer who established a scholarship to honor her memory. And now, 7 years later, someone, perhaps a disturbed family member or a corporate rival, was trying to weaponize old grief. Mora assigned a patrol unit to monitor the building. She filed the report under aggravated stalking, breaking, and entering. Marcus upgraded his security system. His attorney sent cease and desist letters to Meridian Corp just in case. The case seemed straightforward. Disturbing but explainable. Case status: active but not urgent. Everyone moved on. Lauren Mora should have let it go. She had 17 active cases, 3 of them homicides. A billionaire's stalker wasn't her highest priority. But something bothered her. She pulled the Elena Vos file on her lunch break 3 days later. Read the accident report. The witness statements. The toxicology findings. Elena had gone out on the sailboat at 4 p.m. on a Saturday in June. Alone. She was an experienced sailor, had grown up on the water in Michigan. Weather conditions were perfect. Calm winds, clear skies. But she was legally drunk at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Mora called the medical examiner who'd handled the case, Dr. Raymond Patel, now retired. "I remember it," Patel said over the phone. "Routine drowning. She had bruising consistent with falling against the boat's rail. Water in the lungs. Classic accidental death. The toxicology showed 0.14 BAC. Yes. Not uncommon in boating fatalities. People drink while sailing. Did you find any defensive wounds? Signs of struggle? Pause. Detective, this was ruled accidental 7 years ago. Why are you asking? Just covering bases on a related case. There were no defensive wounds. No indication of foul play. The woman drank too much and fell overboard. It happens. Mora thanked him and hung up. She should have stopped there. Instead, she pulled Elena's employment records. Elena Vos, PhD in molecular biology. Hired by Hale Pharmaceuticals in 2016. Worked in clinical trial oversight. Performance reviews were excellent for the first 18 months, then began to decline. Notes mentioned erratic behavior and interpersonal conflicts. She was placed on administrative leave in May 2018, 1 month before her death. Mora found a note from HR. Employee expressed concerns about trial protocol violations. Allegations investigated and found unsubstantiated. Employee encouraged to take personal time. That was interesting. She called Hale Pharmaceuticals' current HR director and requested Elena's complete file. It arrived 2 days later, heavily redacted. The sections about her allegations were marked privileged, attorney work product. Dead end. Mora drove to Elena's last known address, a condo in Lincoln Park. The current owner, a graphic designer named Ashley Kim, had never heard of Elena Vos. The building manager remembered her vaguely. Quiet woman. Kept to herself. I felt terrible when I heard what happened. Did she seem depressed? Unstable? The manager frowned. Not at all. That's what surprised me. She seemed focused. Like she was working on something important. She'd have visitors sometimes late at night. Once I saw her arguing with a man in a suit near the parking garage. Heated conversation. But that was weeks before the accident. Did you tell the police this? They never asked. They seemed satisfied it was an accident. Mora felt the familiar itch of a case that didn't quite close properly. But she had no jurisdiction, no evidence of foul play, no reason to keep digging. She let it rest for another week. The second break-in happened on a Thursday. Same building. Different floor. This time the intruder entered the apartment of Marcus Hale's attorney, Richard Gaines, while Gaines was at his office. Same methodology, security disabled, no forced entry. Nothing stolen. Another envelope. Another photograph of Elena Vos. This one showed her at a Hale Pharmaceuticals company event, wearing a name badge and standing next to Marcus. The message, she tried to tell you. Gaines called Marcus immediately. Marcus called Mora. This time the FBI got involved. The case was escalated to corporate espionage, possible domestic terrorism. The working theory. A competitor was running a sophisticated psychological operation to destabilize Marcus before a major FDA approval hearing for a new cardiac drug. The FBI interviewed Elena's family. Her mother in Milwaukee, her brother in Seattle. Both confirmed Elena had struggled with depression and alcohol after workplace stress. Both said they'd accepted her death and wanted to move on. Neither had any idea who might be sending these messages. Security footage from Gaines's building showed the same figure. Baseball cap. Dark clothing. But this time they caught a partial plate on a vehicle leaving the parking structure. A rental sedan traced to a fake ID. The FBI profiler delivered his assessment. Organized offender, likely male, 30 to 50 years old, technical skills, personal connection to Elena Voss or ideological opposition to pharmaceutical companies. The photographs suggested access to Elena's personal effects, meaning family member or former intimate partner. They brought in Elena's ex-boyfriend from 7 years ago, a software engineer named David Park. He had an alibi for both break-ins. He was in San Francisco for a tech conference with hundreds of witnesses. The FBI issued a statement asking for public help identifying the suspect. Local news covered the story. Mysterious intruder targets pharmaceutical CEO. Marcus hired private security. Richard Gaines moved to a hotel. 3 weeks passed with no further incidents. The FBI cycled down their active investigation. Maura closed her file. The case wasn't solved, but it was contained. Probably a disgruntled activist who'd made their point and moved on. Status: open/inactive. Everyone breathed easier. The case was over. Lauren Maura got the call at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. Not from the FBI. Not from Marcus Hale. From Elena Voss's mother. "Detective, someone sent me something," Margaret Voss said, her voice shaking. "I think you need to see it." Maura drove to Milwaukee as the sun rose. Margaret lived in a small ranch house with photographs of Elena covering the mantel. The older woman looked like she hadn't slept. "It came yesterday. I didn't know who else to call." The package contained a USB drive and a handwritten note. "She saved this for you. He wanted you to know the truth." Maura plugged the drive into her laptop. It contained audio files. Lots of them. Recordings Elena had made in the months before her death. Maura listened to the first one. Elena's voice, clear and steady. June 2, 2018. "This is my 4th attempt to report protocol violations in the Cardazine trial. Today Marcus told me to stop making trouble or I'd be terminated. I'm recording this because I don't think I'm safe anymore." Maura went still. The next file, June 8th. "I found the original data. The trial results were altered. Patients in the control group who died from cardiac events were excluded from the final analysis. Marcus approved it. Richard Gaines helped bury the documentation. If the FDA knew, Cardazine would never be approved." Another file, June 14th. "I tried to go to the FDA directly. Marcus found out. He threatened to destroy my career, said I was unstable, said he'd make sure I never worked in science again. I'm copying everything to an external drive and leaving it with someone I trust." The final recording was from June 20, 2018, 3 days before Elena died. "I'm going to the press. I have everything I need. Marcus knows. He called me this morning, said we should talk in person alone. Said he could make this right. I'm meeting him tomorrow night. If something happens to me, please know I wasn't drunk. I haven't had a drink in 6 months. I need someone to believe me." The recording ended. Maura sat in Margaret Voss's kitchen, her mind rewriting the entire case. Elena hadn't died in a drunken accident. She'd been murdered. Marcus had killed her, or had her killed, to protect Cardazine and the billions it would generate. The alcohol in her system was introduced post-mortem or during an assault. The fall from the boat wasn't an accident. "Who sent this to you?" Maura asked. Margaret handed her the note. "I don't know. But I think it was whoever broke into Marcus's apartment. I think Elena gave them this drive before she died, and they've been waiting for the right moment." "Why wait 7 years?" "Because Cardazine just got FDA approval last month," Margaret said quietly. "It's about to go to market. Marcus is about to make billions. Whoever has this information wanted him to feel safe first. Wanted him to think he'd won." Maura made 3 phone calls. First to the FBI. Second to the state's attorney. Third to Dr. Patel, the medical examiner. "I need Elena Voss's body exhumed," she said. "I need you to test for sedatives, toxins, anything that could have been missed the first time." "Detective, that's a huge ask. She was murdered. I have evidence. We need to do this right." 48 hours later, the lab results came back. Traces of lorazepam in the bone marrow. A sedative that would have been metabolized in soft tissue but remained in the skeletal structure. Elena had been drugged before she drowned. The FBI executed search warrants on Marcus Hale's homes, offices, and financial records. They found everything. Payments to a maritime salvage company that had serviced the sailboat the day after Elena's death. $50,000 in cash. Emails between Marcus and Richard Gaines discussing managing the Elena situation. Text messages from Marcus to an unknown number the night Elena died. It's done. Clean it up. The trial data manipulation was real. Cardizine had a 23% higher mortality rate in the actual trials than reported to the FDA. Marcus had falsified the results and Elena had discovered it. The person who'd broken into the penthouse was never identified. The USB drive had belonged to Elena's college roommate, who died in a car accident in 2020. Before she died, she must have given it to someone else. Someone patient enough to wait until Marcus felt untouchable. Marcus Hale was arrested on a Tuesday morning in his office. Richard Gaines turned state's witness. The FDA pulled Cardizine from the approval process. Marcus Hale is currently awaiting trial for first-degree murder, fraud, and conspiracy. He maintains his innocence. His defense team argues the audio recordings were fabricated, that Elena's death was still accidental, that the intruder was a disgruntled activist with an agenda. The jury will decide. Cardizine will never see pharmacy shelves. The clinical trial data is being reanalyzed. Families of patients who died are filing lawsuits. Margaret Voss visits Elena's grave every Sunday now. She says she sleeps better knowing someone kept her daughter's secret safe all these years, waiting for the right moment to make it count. The identity of the intruder remains unknown. The FBI investigated Elena's friends, colleagues, anyone who might have had access to the drive. They found no suspects. Whoever it was covered their tracks perfectly. I think about that sometimes. About someone carrying that envelope for 7 years. Watching Marcus build his empire on a dead woman's silence. Waiting until he felt safe, successful, unstoppable. Then walking into his penthouse in the dark and leaving behind 5 words. You know what you did? Some people believe in justice. Some people believe in revenge. And some people believe that the truth, given enough time, finds its own way to the surface. Like a body in deep water. Eventually everything rises.